Hi, technology, crimes, and law students. I wanted to give you a brief review before the final exam to hit on just a few of the high points to make sure that you focus attention on certain areas that will be important for the exam. So we're looking at the Moodle class right now, and do download or just open in a other browser tab the book, because we'll refer to it during this little review, and it will be helpful for you to look up a few things as well. But in general, for the last exam of the semester, we are going to focus our attention mainly on the techniques and resources for computer crime section forward to today. So you will want to be very aware of the lectures in that section, as well as the assignments, such as the reflection on computer crime, espionage, and phishing, as well as being aware of open source intelligence and other forms of data collection. Although there will not be any real specific questions about the little project that you did, Think Like the Criminal, I hope that by putting yourself in the shoes of the bad actor, you gained some real insights into what it is like to build a hardened system that would be able to thwart attacks. You will have to know a bit about cybercrime and its relationship to organized crime. And you did some assignments that related to organized crime in the digital realm or the digital arena. And then we had the lab sequence collecting evidence from hardware. And I know some of you struggled with that, and it's a challenge doing this in an online format. But the key with that lab sequence was for you to read through it, watch what I did in my videos, and get an appreciation for the meticulous nature of recovering data from a piece of hardware, whether that be a USB or a router or a hard drive on a computer or off of a network for that matter. When you take other courses in the system security / cybersecurity course of study, you'll get into yet a deeper dive into packet analysis and other network tools of the trade. So one of the things you will want to be aware of are some of the commands that are used in networking. So from a definition standpoint, ping, tracer-t, netstat, and netmap, and those are mentioned in the section collecting evidence from other sources, where we talk about tracing IP addresses and using some of the router commands. So I would read through that section of the book just to familiarize yourself with the vocabulary. You'll also want to be aware of the various what we call show commands that are available on a router, and those are talked about in this section as well. There's a fair amount of focus on the exam about types of attacks. So we have the brute force attacks, basically not very sophisticated or use a lot of knowledge behind it. It's just banging away at the system until hopefully something breaks from in the mind of the attacker. There's also MAC table overload, where a lot of information is thrown at the switch, helping to overburden its MAC table, its address table, and thus cause a breakdown, and then the switch basically just floods traffic out without much scrutiny. There's also the dynamic host configuration protocol starvation attack, or DHCP starvation, where the server that is handing out IP addresses is so bombarded that it no longer has new IP addresses to hand out, causing a system breakdown again. And in the networking classes that many of you have taken, you learned about VLANs, or virtual local area networks, and the way VLANs operate is through a tagging system, and cyber criminals devise ways to double tag their traffic so that they can get on a virtual LAN, VLAN, that is different from the one that they started on, likely one that they're not supposed to have access to. Again, in your lab with recovering data from the USB, I would recommend you read through those lab documents again, because some important definitions were brought to bear. One was the physical and logical data recovery, and which was the gold standard? Physical, the bit by bit replica of the source material. There is also backup analysis, where we are able to take iTunes files or photo images and recover them in whole. Then a fairly large sequence of the test is focuses on the legal aspects. So in part 3 of the book here, we have information on expert witnesses and expert reports, and as well as the book, we also have various video and instructor lectures that broached this subject as well. So I highly recommend that you review expert witnesses and expert testimony, and as well as the federal rules of evidence, and I'm pointing your attention specifically here to this legal opinion, Daubert versus Merrell Dow Pharmaceutical. The impact of that case of Daubert is a standard used to this day in cases across the United States and elsewhere. Depositions and trials are also an important topic, including admissibility of evidence. And you did have a worksheet where you had the 3 main attributes of admissibility. Make sure you know relevance, reliability, and lawful acquisition for admissibility of evidence. Also, tips for depositions. Hopefully you never have to be deposed, and the person who is deposed is called the deponent. The deponent is deposed by the opposing attorney, even though their own attorney can be in the room at the time. And as a deponent, it is very important to be completely honest, but one should also be brief and only answer exactly the questions that were asked and not be led off on a tangent. Okay. You will also want to take a look at Chapter 14 in the book, Protecting Children on the Internet. It's not a whole lot of reading. I would recommend that you give it a look, especially this page here, 381, signs that a child might be a likely target, one who's lonely, feels marginalized, a child from a broken family, a child with low self-esteem. And then there is some information about techniques that predators use. So you did a very recent assignment about the steps involved in forensic investigation, forensic readiness. Be very familiar with that, as well as the steps that an expert witness should follow to be a good expert witness. So a good expert witness wants to, of course, show some conclusion. But to do that, to get there, they should set up the situation, then educate in layman's terms, because your jury are just going to be plain folk, educate on the science, describe how the investigation was done, making sure to be very clear, present the results, and then finally state the conclusion. So by carrying through that nice sequence where you take the jury by the hand and set up the situation, educate them on the basics of the science, describe how the examination was done so very carefully, and then present the results, and then what your conclusion is. That is a good expert witness. In the course, we also did talk a bit about not just laws as governmental laws, but also within a corporate environment. And in that environment, we were talking policy. And policy does have the weight of, punishment inside the corporate sphere. So policies are very, very exactly written standards that the corporate environment, the institution, puts to paper and has the weight of disciplinary action. And every company should take the time and the attention to put to paper a policy document so that if an employee or an outside entity violates, they have standing to impose disciplinary action. So study well, and I know that you will do great. Thanks for being in Technology, Crimes, and Law.